Hi there, I'm just going to really quickly explain for you stopping distances. So stopping distances relate to the average, and that's really important, the average family car and the average driver on the road. So you might, if you're prepared, do a little bit better than this. If you're driving a high performance car, you might do a little bit better than this. But based on the average of all the cars that we see on the road, the highway code gives us the following stopping distances. So interpreting this chart is relatively straightforward. It's a type of bar graph, if you like, and you've got speed down the side here, and these have been converted, or these are in miles per hour, so that we're familiar with them. So you've got 20 down through to 70. And then the data that goes with this is that the stopping distance is 12 meters for a car traveling at 20 miles an hour. So imagine, if you like, that a hazard appears, maybe a light turns red, or somebody steps off the pavement in front of a motorist. That would be what we call a hazard, and those hazards cause drivers to react and then stop their vehicles. So if a hazard appears at 20 miles an hour, it will take 12 meters for the driver to think about the problem and then brake the car to a stop. So you can see from this the idea that stopping distance is equal to the thinking distance and the braking distance. So we have two things here. So I'll draw it a little bit further down here where it's a little bit larger. So we've got the thinking distance, and here we've got the braking distance. So the thinking distance is the time it takes for the driver to react, and the braking distance is the time it takes for the driver to stop the car. Now, I can already hear you thinking that it's going to be different under different circumstances. It's not going to be the same every single time. And you're absolutely right, and we'll have a look at that in a second. But just one final time, this thinking distance here adds to this braking distance to give you the overall. And this is the crazy thing. So if you look at the length of this at 70 miles an hour, this is what governs the speed limits on our roads in the UK, is the ability of drivers to stop their vehicles when they're driving at those speeds. Okay, so just whip that out of the way. Now, if we think about thinking and braking distance very briefly, we sort of divide this up. So thinking distance depends on your reactions as a driver. And with those reactions, anything that affects the driver's reactions will affect thinking distance. So the big ones are alcohol, slows those reactions. You've also got other drugs, other depressant drugs will slow the reaction time. And tiredness. If you are half asleep, if you're feeling a bit like dozing off, then you're not going to be reacting as quickly as you could. And you've also got, finally on this list here, you've got distractions. And they are varied. So you could have the distraction of a mobile phone, you could have the distraction of children in the back, or simply looking at something else. Maybe another accident that's happened on the other side of the road will cause you to think poorly and have an accident of your own. So braking distance over here. Now, these were all about the driver and the driver's reactions. This side is all going to be about the car and the road. So this is all about the car and the road. Okay, so maybe your tyres are worn. So you've got worn tyres, and they will increase, as will worn brakes. What else will affect? I'm trying to think now. If you've got a damaged road surface, or you've got icy or wet roads, anything which affects the friction between the car and the road will have a negative impact on the braking distance. Okay, so you might get a real sort of a twist in an exam question where they ask you what would improve, so what would shorten the thinking distance, and maybe having a cup of coffee or concentrating. So we quite often see road signs put up in places where we know there are lots of hazards. They increase driver concentration. And then finally over here, we might have something called ABS, which is our advanced braking systems. And what they do is they prevent cars from skidding on the road. And that reduces their braking distance. Okay, and that's about everything you need to know about thinking, braking and stopping distances.